Hello and welcome once again to Midweek Connect from Elim Church, Romsey. My name's Dave Walker and I'll be with you for 6 or 7 minutes. I always say it's about 6 or 7 minutes and then we go over a little bit, but it will be about 6 or 7 minutes, maybe 8, to share with you something good, something inspiring, and something which I hope will encourage you today. With these Midweek Connects, we're going to bring them to an end by the end of July. So through July on a Wednesday, I'll be doing a series, and there'll be no more Midweek Connect after July, so that we can take a break in August and just have the Sunday services. And then we're going to look as a church really at what we need to do online and how we need to do it. But I feel it's right for Midweek Connect to come to an end. At the end of July. I believe it's served its purpose during the pandemic. My title today is, "O Lord, how majestic is your name." I was going to read from Psalm 8, and then I'll bring a few thoughts out of it which will inform, encourage and challenge you, I really believe. Psalm 8. O Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Out of the mouths of babes and infants you have established strength because of your foes, to still the enemy and the avenger. When I look at your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have set in place, what is man that you are mindful of him, and the son of man that you care for him? Yet you have made him a little lower than the heavenly beings and crowned him with glory and honour. You have given him dominion over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, and also the beasts of the field, the birds of the heavens and the fish of the sea. Whatever passes along the paths of the seas, O Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. This is a psalm of David, and it's just about worship. It doesn't focus on how bad life is for us, as some psalms do. It doesn't focus on what we want God to do for us, as other psalms do, and some do both. It focuses on worshipping God. Guess what? In this day and age, everybody, including so-called Christians alike, focus on ourselves. We worship ourselves. In fact, somewhere it actually said, I heard somebody say that there's the Trinity that people worship in this modern day age, and that can affect Christians as well, is myself, my friends and my family. And beyond that, people don't really care much about anything. And sadly, that's a trap that we have fallen into as a church sometimes. And I believe that as individual Christians, we need to rediscover what worship is. David is worshipping God here, focusing on God and talking about how wonderful God is and how amazing he is. And you can always tell with somebody what the most important thing in their life is. What is it that they worship? Many years ago, I was working for a newspaper as an advertising rep. I used to go and visit a particular man to pick up adverts, and he was a man who owned a pine shop, a pine studio. And, he'd have pine furniture in the front, and in the back, there'd be a sort of a factory there. And it always used to remind me of sort of woodwork classes at school. You could hear the wood, smell the wood lathes, and you could look through and see all the wood shavings on the floor. But in his showroom, he had pictures of sailboats everywhere. And I thought, this man may be a sort of a woodworker and a salesman for pine furniture, yet he loves sailboats. He loves sailboats. He had pine sailboats, so he married the two worlds together. And sailboats everywhere, because the thing that he loved was sailboats, and it came across. And when we walk down the street, when we talk to our friends and family and those closest to us, all our neighbours, and by the way, your neighbour is your wife if you're married, because she's the closest to you. Let that be a bit of a lesson. Or vice versa, husband. Your neighbours are the ones who live with you before we even look over the hedge. What do they see? Do they see the sailboats, or do they see the wood? In other words, what I'm saying is, when people see you, does the Jesus that you worship spill over so that other people can see him as well? When David talks about the most important thing in his life, he talks about Jesus here. And in verse 1 again, O Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. Well, that's absolutely encouraging. It's so fantastic. And I want to say to you today that not only is worship the most important thing that we can do, it's the most effective thing that we can do in a time of crisis. At that same job, no, it was a different job actually, in an office many years ago, I'd fallen out with a particular man in the company. And you know what it's like when somebody's bullying you or being bad to you or being horrible to you, and you just think, oh, I've got to face that person again. And we had a particular standoff in our place of work a few days ago before, and this guy had said horrible things about me, and he was conspiring to get other people against me. So I decided that I would go in very early on the Monday morning when nobody was there, and I would stand in his office and I would worship God. And the first thing I said is, Lord, I want to lift up your name. You're mighty. Lord, you've brought me into this job. I don't complain. I accept it, and I thank you for giving it to me. I'm so grateful. And Lord, I worship you first. And then I forgave this guy. Literally, he wasn't even there yet. I said, Lord, I forgive him completely, 100%. I pray your blessing on him. And Lord, if any of this issue, this falling out that we've had is my fault, Lord, then I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, Lord. But I want to worship you now. In the same attitude that David had, I said, Lord, I want to give you glory, not complain about anything. But I want to worship you right now. And I did that, and I went back into my part of the office, and he came in later, didn't say anything to me for ages, and then he came up to me a bit later, and he was actually quite different, quite normal. And I thought, I'm going to apologise first. I don't care whose fault it was. I will take this on board. I said, God, I've got this one. You know, I can't complain about people being horrible to me. Jesus was sort of rejected on the cross. I mean, what I'm going through is compared to that. So I said, look, mate, I'm really sorry about falling out on Saturday. And he says, don't worry about it, forget it. And he was nice to me from that point onwards. Why was he? I believe it's because I had an attitude of worship and forgiveness, and I did things God's way. And we look at this psalm and think it doesn't tell us how we can get more money from God. It doesn't shout about how bad the world is, but it just focuses on God. And that's what we need to do. We need to focus on Jesus more and more. As a young boy, I used to get a very thick magnifying glass and magnify it on the sun in the garden and onto a piece of paper. And after a while, the piece of paper would burst into flames. You've probably done that yourself. Do you know what? If you focus on God and focus on worshipping him, you will burst into flames by the Holy Spirit, and people will see Jesus in you. And people need to look at you and look at me and read the words that emanate out of us, the words that say, O Lord our God, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Thank you for listening today. God bless you. And my prayer is that Jesus literally emanates out of you, and people can look at you and see that God is worth worshipping. Thank you for listening to Midweek Connect from Elim Church, Romsey today. God bless.